Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I am joined by my special guest today, Sarah Shook. How are you today, Sarah?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me on the show, Kevin.
Oh, absolutely. So we met at
Yeah.
that conference, and I think at the time we were recording this, it was a month ago. Ooh, an entire month has flown by, I think, since that conference, which is mind blowing. How was that conference for you?
It was really good. I was able to meet people I've known online for a few years and in person, see people that I've already met, but haven't gotten a chance to really talk to in depth conversations. And I came away feeling a lot more motivated than I did whenever I was going down there. I was really anxious to go down there. It was my first trip by myself since having kids, so over 9 years. And I was a ball of nerves, but as soon as I got there, everybody was friendly and it was just a really great experience. And since then, I've been so much more productive this past month um, than I have in a few months before.
What was the uh, reason for going down to that conference? Did you see it come across your social? Why that conference?
Well, I've been freelancing for a few years and right now I only have one client. And so I have been trying to work on networking. I had fallen off of the networking bandwagon when I was doing agency freelancing, which I'm sure we'll probably touch on here in a bit. And so I just I wanted to rebuild and start networking again. And I was given I was actually given a ticket. So between networking and also I'm an introvert and I hadn't really had much social interaction. And I'm also the only dev in my friend and family circle. So being able to talk with other developers and people that have the similar goals, that was what I was looking to get out of it. And I definitely did get all of that and more.
Oh, that's excellent. And yeah, hopefully it's not your last conference. Do you have any
I
other
hope not.
conferences that you like to attend that might be coming up?
You
Have you
know,
thought that
I
far ahead?
I haven't thought that far ahead, but I definitely do wanna go to another one. I'd love to go at least to that again in Texas next year,
Yeah.
for sure, yeah.
That conference, Texas, is on my short list, just depending on timing. So we're gonna keep our fingers crossed. And I have to get selected to speak and all that jazz. It's always the detail. Uh, so Sarah, for folks out there who might not be familiar with you, want to give us kind of the gist of your story to where you are today, and then we'll go into some of the details a little bit afterwards.
Sure. So, as far as my story goes, I didn't start out well, when I was younger, my mom built her own computers and was always tinkering with hers, and my uncle owned a software development company. So I've been around tech since I was very young. And I didn't get into actually development until probably about 25. From age 18 until then, I was a recruiter. And so I did that and I ended up having kids and taking a bit of a leave. And I started working with an online K through 12 school. And I started doing basic system administration for them. I wouldn't say it's like full administration. It was all remote work, right? So I wasn't dealing with the routers or the switches or anything like that. But I did start doing PowerShell there and automating scripts for students and the enrollment process. And then um, the pandemic hit, and I really wanted to get into the more front end side of things. So I joined Twitter and I ended up winning a boot camp through Twitter and did that. And while I was in the boot camp, I landed my first freelance role through an agency, which I had no idea what an agency was at that time as far as freelancing goes. I knew what it was for recruiting, but not for freelancing. And so I did that for a while, and now I haven't been working with that agency for about probably 6 months or so, but I do still have another client, and that's really it. Like I went from the system administration to boot camp to freelancing to where I am now, which is kind of in this middle ground, and I'm sure we'll go into that as well.
So freelancing through an agency, I am pretty sure you're the first person we've had on who works with agencies. Tell us a little bit about the just process of working with the agency, finding gigs through the agency. Because I'm sure people out there are interested. How did you even get started with the agency to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, I got started through Twitter and networking there. Somebody that I knew that I was a mom and staying at home, and she knew I was looking for something freelance and connected with us with another person who I also knew, but didn't know that he had an agency. And so we linked up and he gave me an opportunity to work with him. And then after the first project, I did well enough that he kept me on, and I just kept doing projects after project for him. I probably did 10 or 11 different projects throughout my tenure with him. And as far as finding clients through the agency, that was the beauty of it. I didn't have to find the clients. They found the clients. I was still freelancing, so I could work any hours that I needed. That I got to focus on code, and I didn't have to worry about actually finding the new business. I just worked once the business was available, which was really great.
Did you find with the agency the work was pretty consistent? Were you ever, quote, "on the bench," for any period of time?
Yeah, I mean, so I the work did dry up in the end, unfortunately, but before it dried up and he ended up going a different direction, there were maybe 1 or 2 times where there was gonna be like a 2-week to a month break, but then within a week or 2, another job came up. So I was lucky that I did not have a break, at least up until the end. I know sometimes that can be a thing, where, you just have to wait until there's new business, but I was lucky enough that that was not the case for me.
I'm curious kind of the business structure around the agency. Were you working as just a 1099, or did you have your own do you have your own business entity that you work through with the
I
agency?
have my own business entity that I work
You do?
through,
Okay.
so it's me,
Uh,
but I wanted to have my own business, like, just because honestly, I was like a little kid in a candy shop the day that I actually, like, got the business registered. I was so excited, right? It's just like it feels like a big step, and I can do this. Right now, it's just me, but, in the future, if I decide to scale and I wanna work with other people, I'll have the opportunity. I won't have as many hoops to jump through otherwise, and it's also safer. There's I mean, I could go into the differences of being a sole proprietor and being a single member LLC, but just for security purposes and like legal purposes, I decided I wanted to just pay a bit every year to have that feel safe, um, and instead of doing the sole proprietor path, which you can
yeah,
do.
absolutely. The biggest benefit is it's tax beneficial to have your own business entity. Anyone out there listening, if you decide to do the sole proprietor and 1099 through another business, you're responsible for, and this is US centric. So anyone outside of the United States, sorry, you have different rules. But in the United States, you're usually succumb to self-employment insurance, or I'm self-employment tax, which is at least another 14 to 16% additional tax on the money that you would be bringing in. So always a good idea, and not even talking about the other things that Sarah just mentioned, just the liability aspect of having a separate business, just the taxes alone. I think you save yourself a lot of pain just having that entity. And is like you said, it's extremely easy to set up, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's probably better ways to do it because I didn't know what I was doing when I signed up the first time. I'd probably research a bit more based on my knowledge now, right?
Yeah.
But I found an agent, like a registered agent online, and they're based out of Texas, which is where I reside. But I think you can set up like an LLC anywhere. So some people live in like California, but then they'll set it up in Virginia because it's
Yeah.
like the tax laws are different in the different states. I didn't wanna do that. I am a very by the book person when it comes to, that, and I don't wanna get in any type of trouble, so I just went with my own state. But I know that depending on where you live, you have flexibility to kind of branch out and find better options, for you, for sure.
It absolutely depends on what you're doing. A lot of businesses will incorporate in Delaware. Delaware is the famous,
Delaware,
everyone
yeah.
goes to Delaware. And that's simply because Delaware business law has been tested rigorously. It's a safer place to set up your business because if you ever run into a case where there's a suit between you and someone you're working for, uh, the laws in Delaware have been tested so rigorously that any lawyer knows what they're walking into. It's not a case of, I'm in Virginia and you're in Texas, and if jurisdiction is in Virginia, now a Texas law firm has to figure out what laws in Virginia apply or don't apply, help them, don't help them. It's just more complicated in the long run. Like law in general is complicated, which is why everyone should have a lawyer at least on speed dial. You just hope you never need to talk to them, but just have them there just in case. So Sarah, why freelancing? There's a lot of opportunity out there. And it feels like you could have went into a job, a full-time job if you wanted to. Um, why freelancing versus going the job route?
Yeah, so I kind of have a few different thoughts because right now I'm actually on the middle where I'm either looking for a full time role right now myself or another client, just depending on where things take me. We'll see. And I'll talk about that and why.
Yeah.
But the reason I wanted to do freelancing in the first place really is because of my kids. I have three small kids. And when I first started, I had two of them at home. I still have one at home. So the flexibility of being able to stay with them while they're at home, and I I know there's lots of people who put their kids in daycare and things like that, and that is so great. But that wasn't what I wanted to do personally. And so the fact that I had the opportunity not only to save costs, but to just spend more time with them until they hit the school age, that was really the big reason. So I was able to have the flexibility. And also, I really like the idea of working for myself. I did say that I'm open to, jobs and I have reasons for that, but working for myself and being my own boss, ultimately the goal, even if I got a full-time job, I still have things on the side that I've started working on that eventually will give me hopefully passive income. So and that, we've talked a few weeks ago, but like things have changed since we last talked too for me. So yeah, so just no matter what, I want to be able to be my own boss. And sometimes that might mean taking a bit of a step back. But in the future, like, 10 years down the line, that's where I wanna be anyways. And I've got a head start, and yeah, so the flexibility, the freedom, when it is good, right? Like, you can
Yeah.
make a lot of money freelancing, but, on the other side, when it's not good, it is a bit more challenging, I did agency freelancing, and so now I'm at this point where I'm not I don't I have talked to different agencies and, like, I'm kind of on back burner for some if there is needs that come up that fit my skill set, which is great, but I don't have, like, a specific time frame for when that could happen. Um, so, so I do need some stability right now, but ultimately in the long term, it would be, be able to, um, build whether that be, a SaaS that's bringing in income. I'm looking at different avenues to where I can, eventually step back and have my own stuff all again and feel comfortable, right? Because finances and comfort is a big thing, especially when you have kids.
So what's currently on your plate? Is it just you said you had one client? Is that client for a finite amount of time? What's the current environment look
The
like?
cli the client, it's I don't know yet, and that's the thing. The big part of the project that I'm working on is really coming to a close, and actually, I need to sit down and like finish it like today and tomorrow. But they'll if they need other things in the future, then they'll reach out to me, and most likely they will. But the thing is there's just no stability there. And so like I've also been trying to network and talk to different people, like I said, different agency owners. You and I had a chat about consulting at one point. So I've
Mhm.
been talking to other people and trying to learn what they're doing. The thing is because I took a step, I stopped networking, like I mentioned earlier, when I was doing the agency work. I really kind of shot myself in the foot and took a step backwards, and I didn't. maintain and continue building those relationships during that time, which looking back on and going forward, I know that I should definitely still be reaching out no matter what and just doing coffee chats and talking to different people, even if things are going well, because you never know when something could turn and when somebody in your network might be available for you to help them.
Well, it sounds like you have a little bit of, I'm going to use the term free time, but I know you probably don't feel like you have free time because there's so much going on. What are the steps that you said you took a lot away from that conference, conversations you've had with me and with other people? What are your next steps for, I guess, for anything, just with the goal being to find work and keep the money train going?
Yeah, so I mean, I started streaming. And last time we talked, I told you I was about to start, but I did start and
Yep.
I'm going to hit affiliate, which means I will be able to make money from my streams. So we'll see how that goes. I'm really excited about that because it went really well. I talked to my computer anyways. So I just talked to my computer while other people watched, which is great. So I'm doing that. I also have a application idea. Look, I've never done a SaaS before myself. Like I've worked on multiple bigger projects, but I've never built like something as big as I want to build from the ground up. But I have been doing that and streaming about it. And I don't want to say what it is quite yet because I haven't seen anybody else do it. And so I'm hoping that my idea is like good enough, but we'll
Yeah.
see. Right. You can't know unless you try. So that I'm working on that. And then I am looking actively looking for either contracts or full time. Which honestly, if I'm fine for a little bit taking full time and having stable benefit or like actual benefits that I don't have to pay out the foot for, you know. And so and I've just been doing a ton of networking. And you know, we talked about going to that. That really opened my eyes to continuing to network and just putting yourself out there. And like I've been trying to, I did a LinkedIn post about this. Like I've been trying to be okay with being uncomfortable because when you're uncomfortable, that's when progress can be made. And so far, I really do feel like the progress is being made. It's just, you know, sometimes it takes a little bit of work to get to where you want
Yeah.
to be.
Well, that's all good to hear. And it sounds like you have aspirations. What type of goals do you set for yourself? Just for, I guess, day after day, week after week. How are you gauging the progress that you're making?
That's a good question. I mean, so like with streaming, I could start there because that's like kind of what my goal has been the past few weeks. That is easy to gauge based on how many people are following, based on the fact that I've been able to get to affiliate status in like less than 2 weeks, which I did not expect that going in. So the fact that I have a good start and then I've been consistent with that, I can see progress will be made there. Now, I'm not saying like I'm gonna make a lot of money off of streaming, but if I make a little bit, that'd be great. And it still opens the door to other opportunities. Right now, I've been streaming about different frameworks like Astro. Recently, I've been doing Vue and Next. That's what my current thing is. And so being able to put myself out there in a way that people can actually see what I know, that I know what I'm talking about, and see how my learning process is too, right? Because I go into these streams and I don't necessarily know the answer, you know, so I have to Google or, you know, chat GTP or whatnot. But people can actually go and see like my thought process and how I am how I like figure things out or and what I already know. So that's one thing I guess as far as goals. The other thing how I measure my progress. I mean I think talking to more people, putting myself out there, and I don't think that it's not measuring progress to a job, but every time I have a conversation with somebody, every time I actually get on a video call and chat, that's another chance to network and build those relationships. And since we'd left that a month ago, I've had several of these types of calls, and you know, the network has been building, and I can see that based on responses and the relationships and people reaching out to me again on one-on-one calls and things like that. So I don't have like monetary progress right now because that's what I'm trying to get to, right? Is being able to do that. But I can see the progress being made in getting to that step that I'm looking for. And I think for me, I've always been like, I'm not good at planning. And I know that that's like not really, I need to work on that, but I have been working on that and I can see that going. And so I kind of, whereas 2 months ago, if you would have asked me what my goal is, I wouldn't have said half of the things that I'm telling you right now because I've been putting myself out there and finding new ways to either network or potentially build additional income. I've been able to measure it internally, I guess, if that makes sense. Hopefully,
Yeah.
if that answers your question.
The reason I even start this conversation, and this is why I found talking to, let's say, hundreds of entrepreneurs that I have interacted with in my lifetime, the most successful ones always have a set of goal or goal posts for what they're trying to achieve and the actions in order to achieve it. The biggest reason that we set these goals is that we have a finite amount of time in the day. And I think we'll also talk a little bit about life work balance and juggling
Yeah.
all the things at once. But because we have this finite amount of time, we need to make sure that we're investing in the things that provide value. And there are things you do for work that produce the money, and there are things you do for family because you you have family and responsibilities, and then you have this other section of time that's devoted to improving, I guess, one or the other. So if you want more work, more passive income, or more active income streams, like what are the things that you can do, and how do you gauge whether or not the actions you're taking there are working, and are they things that you should continue to spend your time on? The example I always use is it's been almost 10 years now, but I had a startup I was working on, and I devoted 2-3 years of my life to working on this startup, and eventually got to the point where it was myself and my business partner asked ourselves the question: Are we hitting the goalposts? Like we say the goalpost is out here that we want to make, however many hundreds or thousands of dollars a month on the product, but the time and effort that we're putting into it isn't getting us closer to that goalpost. So eventually we stopped what we're doing because we knew from ourselves that it was easier, better, faster to make money going down different avenues. The product just wasn't working, so we shut the product down. And I see that a lot just in my life where I'll start doing something just because I think it's fun, and then I think I can make money from it. But unless I put some accountability on myself, saying, well, if this isn't working in 6 months, then I need to stop that because there are other things I like to do, other things I like to try. So give myself a goal. If I hit my goal, awesome. If I don't, I'm going to transition to do something else. So that's kind of why I bring up this topic is I love having this just thought conversation of there's a lot of different things we
Yeah.
could be doing. And so what you're doing now, when do you take a step back and go, is this working? Should I be doing something else?
Yeah, I think that this is a great conversation. And one of the things I would like to kind of not necessarily counter with, but I'll put my 2 cents in is like, so I was doing agency for a while and, I got a bit complacent, right? I told you I stopped really networking. It was comfortable. I mean, it was going really well for a while. And it felt very stable. And I did not have those goals that you're talking about because it basically was almost like a full-time job. But
Yeah.
but when it ended, it just ended. I mean, and so now I'm having to figure out, okay, what am I doing? Is this going to be a good return on investment for myself and for my future, even though it's not making anything yet like on some of the different endeavors, right? Because again, I have a client, but I want to expand, right? So
Yeah.
for me, again, I mean, I'm just going to go to streaming because this is something I'm super excited about. And the fact that I've been able to hit these goals that very quickly, and I've been very consistent and I've enjoyed doing it. My goal for that would be to build it up. And I can't give like a monetary goal. Oh, I want to make, $1,000 a month from this.
Yep.
I just don't know that far yet because I haven't done it long enough. Now, I will probably go back and reflect in a month or two and see where things are. But for now, I do feel like I'm investing my time in something that ultimately is going to help me in the future, right? When it comes to like, I redid my portfolio, which honestly, I still want to keep going back and redoing. I had to stop. I had to cut myself off and say, no, no more. I'm spending way too much time because I can. I also am like you, where if I get into something and I really enjoy it, I am gonna go down those rabbit holes. And yeah, I am gaining knowledge whenever I do
Yeah.
that. So I do feel like that's a win. But is it a win that I really need right now? Or is it better that I spend my time networking instead of, looking at my website? Another thing is like you see all the time build in public. I have not done that. I am a little bit selfish sometimes with my code and with my ideas. And that is because, well, number one, it's kind of scary to put yourself out there, right? And especially on my end, if I post anything technical on Twitter, I get a
Hmm.
ton of comments and advice and feedback that I did not ask for. And
Yeah.
so you have to overcome like those types of fears and just obstacles and dealing with other people that can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. But building in public itself has paved the way. And when I was doing it before, it gave me so many opportunities. So doing that type of thing where you're actually sharing what you're working on, instead of, and this is a big one for me. This has been like a new thing where I'm like, okay, I just have to share it. I just have to do it and take it. That is a good investment because that is going to give me a return at some point. Now, I can't tell you the time frame yet, but it's worked before. It works
Hmm.
for tons of people in my network, and I know it's going to work for me again. It's just about the formula and how consistent you are, and how nice you are if you feel like too sometimes.
Let's talk about the work life management of everything because we just said there's a lot going on, a lot of different ambitions and obligations. How do you, especially as a mom, how do you manage all that in a given day, in a given week, in a given month?
Day by day. It's a bit easier now that all of my kids are older. My youngest, he's still at home, but he's 4 and he's easy. Like he's an easy child to be at home with. I told him we have a call. I have a call right now. Mommy's going to be on an interview. I set him up and he's been good. He has not like, and I have another child who would not do that. She would be inside. She'd be in here like coming and saying hi on the camera. It does get hard when things are really busy. And I have found myself in really busy times where I'm really trying to focus. And every 5 minutes, the kids are coming in, and I'm trying to, focus on this code that I like has a bug in it. And I'm trying to test it and figure out where it is. And I just can't get into that flow state. And it gets really challenging during those times when I feel a lot of pressure. And I notice though that when I feel a lot of pressure, sometimes I can get a little bit snappy. And when I notice myself getting snappy, I know I need to take a step back and take a break from work because work is always going to be there,
Yeah.
and spend time with my kids. But as far as like balancing everything, I feel like probably in the past few months, it's gotten a bit easier as my kids have gotten older, but there have definitely been times in the past where I didn't, and it really affected my mental health. I didn't have a balance. And I think right now, we talk about free time right now. I mean, yes, it is easier for me to balance right now without having as many obligations on my plate as I want, right? Because I do want more obligations. But when that happens, I'm gonna have to rebalance again and figure out what worked and know when to step back and say, I need to just pay attention to my family because kids are first, right?
Mhm.
And they only are kids for so long. And um, was it you who told me the number of weeks until they're 18? Because that still
That
has,
was me.
whoever
Yeah.
told me that stuck with me. And like, yeah, it definitely, they're only going to be kids for a little bit. Like my son before this call, he asked me to snuggle with him for a little bit. And so I did. Like, I'm not going to tell them no. when they ask for snuggles, like, because they still like my snuggles and they won't always.
Now they'll get to a point where they're preteens and
Yep.
they get those hormones and they don't wanna like, they're fine being in the same room with you, but they don't wanna, "Don't touch me, dad. Don't
I
touch
know
me,
my
mom."
9-year-old's
Yeah.
almost to that point, and I'm like, "No," but she isn't yet. She still likes my hug, so for now.
Uh, I think we're kinda coming to the end of our conversation, so I think the big question is, just big thinking. If we
Yeah.
were to peek in on where Sarah is 5 years from now, where would you love Sarah to be?
Okay, I would love to follow in Kevin Powell's path. Like, if you don't know Kevin Powell, he does tons of CSS videos on YouTube. And like he does what he loves. He works with CSS all day and makes video and shares his knowledge. And I don't want to be exactly him, but that type of career would be great. I love, love, love CSS. I love doing animations. If I could just sit there and make little animated components and then build them. And actually, that's kind of what the SaaS idea I have is. I'm not, but like it has something to do with components, but it's not a component library. So,
Yeah.
anyways, I like, but that kind of stuff is really fun, making those little details. And so I'm 5 years from now, if I could have everything up and running and then be streaming what I know at that point, like I honestly, when we talked a few weeks ago and I was telling you, I don't really know where I want to be. Like now I actually do. I do have a better idea, but it's just like I'm just taking that first step forward, right? So it's gonna take a few more steps for me um to really like see if the fruition is gonna be there.
Yeah.
But but and like at this point, it's like I almost feel silly like sharing my goals to the public because I like maybe it's I feel that other people will kind of look down on it, which I shouldn't care anyways, right? But I would love to be doing content creation and sharing knowledge and specifically focusing on front end animations and CSS. That's really what I love, and you can make a business out of it, and that is at this point what I intend to do.
That's awesome, and we'll check back with you in a year at least to
Yeah.
see where you are, and
Well,
then,
that would be fun. We could do a follow-up.
I'm trying to remember exactly what the phrase is, and it's something around we underestimate how much we can get done in a year, and we overestimate how much we can get done in, like, a week, and it's easy for us to say, to feel stressed out about, "Oh, I have so much I need to get done this week," or but, usually after a year, if you set the goals and you have a plan and you put it into action, you can get so much done before the year comes around. I've done this exercise for 8, 8, 9 years now, where I basically come up with boulders. So boulders are the big ideas, the big things I like to accomplish, and it might be something like I want to launch a course. I want to launch 4 courses. That was an ambitious year. And well, because I know I want to launch 4 courses, okay, well, let me break that down to a year. Means I need to launch a course every quarter. Okay. So let's take 1 quarter, have break that 3 months up into to-dos. All right. Every week I have to get something done. But by the end of the quarter, I get the course launched. That's always helped so tremendously well. And at the end of the year, now I didn't get 4 courses done, but I got 2 courses done. And that was good progress.
Yeah, I agree, and I wanna say, like, I listened to your other podcast guests, and I listened to several of the episodes, and I was really surprised when you reached out because I'm at a different point than where most of them are. They're all more established than I am, but at the same time, everybody starts somewhere. Like, you have to start from the beginning and figure it out, and like you said, make those plans, figure out what you wanna make those plans for, and do it. And I am one of those people who, if I want something, I'm gonna get it. It's just
Yeah.
taken me a little while, especially after, like, the agency things ended. It's taken me a little bit to figure out what that was, and I finally did, at least for now, but, there's still a little bit more testing to do, but I think I do, and I like, I'm so interested in getting to that success level, and I found something that I really enjoy that I'm gonna make it happen. And I think yeah, I hope we do check back in a year to see what the progress is. And I hope it's really good progress because I'd love to have like a follow up to where I started and then where I am to show other people that it is possible. You just have to find that niche that you really enjoy and then run with it. And then, like you said, make plans and have those goals for yourself so that you can get to where you want to be.
Absolutely. Well, we'll plan that conference, Texas, next year. That'll be our
Yeah,
check-in, and we'll see where you are. Uh,
sounds
Sarah,
good.
anything to promote before we say goodbye?
Yeah, sure. You can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/slash shook codes.
Excellent. And we'll put that link in the show notes. With that, Sarah, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. It's been a pleasure to chat with you. And I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of your story over the next months and years. And we'll see everyone next time on the Multi-Threaded Income Podcast. Take care. You've been listening to the Multi-Threaded Income Podcast. I really hope that this podcast has been useful for you. If it has, please take a moment to leave a review wherever you get your podcast from. And don't forget, the conversation doesn't stop here. Join us on our Discord at mti.to/Discord. I've been your host, Kevin Griffin, and we'll see you next week. Cha-ching!